Welcome back to the afternoon session of a spiritual retreat honoring Swami Vivekananda. We'll resume now with a song by Aloparna.
কেন বা যাই ভেসে ভেসে কত কত দেশে, চারিদিকে গোল ওঠে নানা রোল। কত আসে যায়, হাসি কাঁদে গায়, এই আছে আর তখনই যে নাই, জোড়াইতে চায় কোথায় জোড়ায়, কোথা হতে আসি, কোথা ভেসে যায়, জোড়াইতে চায় কোথায় জোড়ায়। কি কাজে এসেছি, কি কাজে গেল, কে জানে কেমন কি খেলা হলো, কি কাজে এসেছি, কি কাজে গেল, কে জানে কেমন কি খেলা হলো, প্রবাহের বাড়ি রহিতে কি পারি, যাই যাই কোথা কুল কিনায়, জোড়াইতে চায় কোথায় জোড়ায়, কোথা হতে আসি, কোথা ভেসে যায়, জোড়াইতে চায় কোথায় জোড়ায়। করো হে চেতন, কে আছো চেতন, কত দিনে আর ভাঙিবে সমন, যে আছো চেতন ঘুমায় না আর, দারুণ ঘোর নিবিড় জুড়াইতে চায় কোথায় জোড়ায় কোথা হতে আসে কোথা ভেসে যায় ফিরে ফিরে আসে কত কাঁদে হাসি কোথায় যায় সদা ভাবি গোতায় জোড়াইতে চায় কোথায় জোড়ায়
We have been fortunate to hear the Swami speak on today's theme of Guru. Our next speaker is Swami Tattvamayananda, and the title of his talk is Human Guru. Swami Tattvamayananda is the minister in charge of the Vedanta Society of Northern California in San Francisco. In January 2012, Swamiji arrived from Belur Mutt, India, to serve as assistant minister to Swami Prabhuddhananda, and he became the minister in charge of the society in July 2014. The Swami, a Sanskrit scholar, regularly gives talks and conducts classes at the center.
ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयो सित्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः. The most unique feature of India's spiritual tradition is its antiquity along with continuity. If you compare India's tradition, India's cultural heritage with with other civilizations like the Greek or Roman, Egyptian, Syrian, or any other ancient civilizations, what strikes you as something very unique about Indian culture is that it is not only the most ancient, but also it continues to be relevant and practical in this modern age. Now, we are indebted to a unique aspect of Indian culture for this continuity and antiquity. It's called Guru Parampara, the tradition of the great spiritual masters who brought forth the best of our ancient heritage from the past and then practiced in their life and handed over to the next generation. It is technically called Guru Sishya Prachishya Parampara. In Indian culture, it's not just spirituality that is linked to this Guru tradition. Even the ordinary secular branches of learning like music, art, literature, and so on, philosophy, and all these subjects. And also the four Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda, and then Vedangas, Siksha, Kalpam, Vyakaranam, Niruktam, Jyotisham, Chandas, Mimamsa, Nyaya Vistaram, Dharmashastram, Puranam, Ayurvedam, Dhanurvedam, Gandharva Vedam, Arthashastram. All these what we call 18 Vidyas of Indian tradition have been kept alive thanks to this unique spiritual mechanism of Guru tradition. Now, what is the role of a Guru in the life of a person? In what way this concept of Guru helps us in our life, everyday life. On the one hand, we are able to look upon whatever we do and whatever we learn with a sense of sanctity and sacredness. We are taught to respect the teacher, and also we are taught to approach the subject that we learn under the teacher with a great sense of sanctity and sacredness. That's why in the Taittiriya Upanishad you find a convocation address in which a student departing from his Gurukula, his hermitage school, and returning to his home to start his life in a household, he is asked to respect the teacher as much as he respects God himself. So, Madhudevo Bhava, Pitrudevo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Aditi Devo Bhava. A person who has studied under a teacher is departing, is leaving his school, going back to his home to marry and to become a member of society, a responsible member of the family, playing different roles within the family structure. So he is asked to respect his parents and then the teacher as much as he respects God himself. It doesn't mean that he should worship, no, not in that sense. What it implies is that we have to approach the teacher with a sense of sanctity and sacredness. The role of a guru is that of a guide. The role of a teacher is the role of a guide. You can find a very interesting illustration of this concept in the Chandogya Upanishad, in the 6th chapter of the Chandogya Upanishad, which is from Samveda tradition, in the 14th section of the 6th chapter, chapter 6, Chandogya Upanishad, section 14. There you find a very interesting parable, a story, which illustrates the practical role of a teacher in our life. The story goes like this. A humble pilgrim was returning to his hometown in what is now Afghanistan. It's called Gandhara. Gandhara is Kandahar, modern Kandahar in Afghanistan. So there used to be land routes between northwestern part of India and today's Afghanistan in those days. It was known as Gandhara Desha. So a pilgrim was returning from India after his education in Vedas, going back to his hometown in Afghanistan, in Gandhara Desha. And on his way, unfortunately, he was ambushed by a group of robbers. So they tied him, they robbed him of all his possessions, dragged him into the thick forests nearby, and tied him to a tree and blindfolded him so that he can't see anything. He was completely bound to a tree. Now, after some time, he found, well, the robbers have left, and he got courage. He started shouting, crying and weeping, lamenting, well, I'm left here alone in this thick forest, please help me. There was a compassionate traveler who was taking the same road, returning from Gandhara Desha, coming back to India. So this elderly person listened to the cries coming from the thick forests, and he listened, and he entered the thick forest, reached the place where the poor pilgrim was tied to a tree. He untied him, removed his blindfold, brought him to the main road, and asked him to take one particular road, Edandisam Gandhara, which means you take, this is the way to your hometown. So he brought him to the main road and showed him the road that would take him to his hometown. And then he instructs him. Look here, in Shankaracharya's commentary, Shankaracharya elaborates the whole incident. Because the Upanishad mantras are not so elaborate. The real implication, the spiritual significance of this analogy, this story, this parable was brought out by Shankaracharya in his commentary. So Shankaracharya says, this man, he represents a normal human being. And we are all actually caught in this thick forest of life. And we are bound hands and feet. We are blindfolded. We think we are this body. We think we are this mind. We think we are this intellect. And then we go on enjoying and sufferings. When there is something unhappy that happens, we get shocked, we lose our temper, we become desperate. And when something that is pleasant takes place, immediately we become jubilant. So like that, pain and pleasure, happiness and unhappiness, the good and bad, it comes and goes in a continuing succession, as in a procession. So we always identify ourselves with this body and mind and intellect, which are caught in this thick forest of worldly enjoyments. Now a teacher comes to you and he tells you, look here, this is not your original place. The thick forest where he is bound to the tree, that is not your original condition. Your genuine position is that you are the liberated, the ever free, the eternal, the immortal Atman. So the teacher comes to him and he takes him away from the thick forests. And then he brings him to the main road and he asks him to take one direction and he tells him that, all right, you take this road and you will get back to your hometown. So the teacher's role is to guide, to show, and to point out, to draw your attention to the right path that you should take to get back to your hometown. Your hometown is your own spiritual nature, from where you are taken away by your own papas, your own karmas, your own samskaras, your own aptitudes, your own desires, your own running after sensual enjoyments. So these are your enemies, like the thieves robbing the poor pilgrim of all his possessions. So the teacher comes, he removes the blindfold, he removes the ignorance being the lack of understanding of our own nature. Like the compassionate traveler who removed the blindfold from the pilgrim's eyes, the compassionate teacher comes and takes away the ignorance, avarana and vikshepa in the language of Vedanta. And then there is a spiritual awakening that happens to the pilgrim, the spiritual seeker. So if you compare with the story, we are all travelers. And somehow we feel that we are away from our hometown. So we identify ourselves with our body, mind and intellect, and we identify ourselves with every fleeting moment of enjoyment, pain and pleasure. So the teacher comes and tells you, well, you are not this enjoying and suffering miserable human being. You are the eternal Atman. So that helps you to look beyond pain and pleasure, and that helps you to look upon pain and pleasure with the same equanimity of mind. The spiritual common sense, the spiritual wisdom is something that the traveler has to reach, that we all spiritual seekers should strive to reach by their own effort. The teacher can only point the direction. The teacher only can take you to the road. The traveling is your responsibility. Taking the right road when you are directed accordingly by the teacher, and then steadily moving ahead, using your own ability to discern the right from the wrong, the real from the unreal, and not being tempted, not being distracted by the fleeting moments of enjoyment and happiness and pain and pleasure that comes in the way. So that's why in one of Vedantic texts, Vivekachudamani, Shankaracharya says, Medhavi Purusho Vidwan Uha Apoha Vichakshanaha Adhigari Atma Vidyayam Ukta Lakshana Lakshitaha. So what are the characteristics to be an ideal student? Because then only we will be able to be benefited by our association with a great teacher. So the great teacher directs you, gives you the right direction, directs you the proper direction, and then it is our responsibility to steadily move forward following the teacher's instructions. On the way there will be distractions, there will be occasions for dissipations. We should be able to withstand that. So uha apoha vijakshana means we should be able to accept what is to be accepted, and also we should be able to reject what is to be rejected. Uha means accepting. So in our spiritual life, we should develop the discerning faculty to appreciate and understand what is appropriate for us, what is conducive to our spiritual life, what is conducive to our spiritual welfare. And simultaneously, we should also develop the discerning faculty to filter out all that is undesirable in spiritual life. Both these qualities are equally important. This instruction comes from a teacher. That teacher is not God, but that teacher plays the role of a bridge between us and God. That teacher himself is taking the responsibility to guide you, but teacher does not take full responsibility to give you Brahmavidya on a platter. We have to take the burden on our own shoulders. We have to do the traveling. That's why Sri Ramakrishna frequently reminds his disciples again and again, so you be sadhu, you should be alert, and he was very particular when he gave training to his disciples on meditation, japa, and all the spiritual practices. That's why Sri Ramakrishna's direct disciples, including Swami Vivekananda and also Holy Mother, insisted on their disciples on practicing their own spiritual sadhana, because traveling is our responsibility. The teacher, even a divine incarnation like Sri Ramakrishna, will give direction, but we have a responsibility to take the journey in our hands. If our samskaras, if our prarabdha karmas are very supportive, very positive, then that will enable us to take the benefit of Sri Ramakrishna's grace, as you find in the lives of Swami Adbhutananda Ji and others. So the role of a teacher is to guide you, but it's very important that we should do the duty of traveling, because unless we do our work, we won't be able to be benefited by God's grace. We should do our duty, and by doing our duty, we become fit for God's grace. So God's grace worthiness is the result of our own spiritual effort. And once we make our effort, and then God's grace automatically comes to help us. So this is the importance of the role of a teacher in modern times. In ancient India, this principle more or less applied to the branches of secular learning also. So even today you find many of the secular arts like music, dance forms, folklore, architecture, and several other areas of learning that you find in Indian cultural heritage. They're all based on certain ancient textbooks coming from ancient times. It is part of this Guru, Sishya, Pratyishya Parampara, this unique spiritual mechanism which enabled us to preserve our tradition and culture. Thank you. Namaskar. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.
Sumita ji will now sing a song.
Yasmin
mind is our guru is the title of the next talk. And speaking on this topic is Swami Isha Dhyanananda. Swami Isha Dhyanananda is the Assistant Minister of the Vedanta Society of Sacramento, and he arrived at the center in August 2017. Before coming to the US, Swamiji served as a treasurer of the Jamshedpur branch of Ramakrishna Mission from 2013 to 2017. Prior to that, he was posted at the headquarters office in Belur Mutt. Swami Isha Dhyanananda joined the Ramakrishna order in 2002 after completing his master's in science. He was initiated by Swami Atmasthananda, the 15th president of the Ramakrishna order, and he received his monastic vows in 2012.
Om Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om. Salutations to that Guru who revealed that truth which is indivisible, infinite, eternal, and which pervades the entire universe. My respected pranams to the Swamijis and my namaskars and best wishes to the devotees who are attending this 4th July celebration of Vedanta Society of Berkeley online. The topic that I have been assigned to is how the mind becomes Guru. In our tradition, that is Ramakrishna Vedanta tradition, we believe in 3 types of Gurus. Atman, Satchidananda is the real Guru, which is within all of us. That same Satchidananda, through a human form, becomes our human Guru, who shows us the roadmap, introduces us with the goal, and gives us instructions on how to travel this path. It's a human Guru. And thirdly, mind itself can become our own Guru. And in our tradition, it is encouraged to develop our mind in such a way that our mind itself can become our own Guru. Because the human Guru may not be available all the time, may not be accessible all the time. So the aspirant is encouraged to develop their mind in such a way that the mind itself becomes the Guru. Sri Ramakrishna said that one's own mind becomes Guru. This is quite unique. We really don't find such an explicit statement from anyone else who says so convincingly that our mind becomes our Guru. How our mind, which deceives us, which is fickle, can become our own Guru. Let us try to understand this statement of Sri Ramakrishna through 2 more statements of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna said that Satchidananda is the Guru. The Atman, our true self, is the real Guru. At many places in the Gospel, he has spoken about that. I am just quoting 1 or 2 from them. He says, there is only one Guru, and that is Satchidananda. He alone is the teacher. At another place he says, Satchidananda alone is the Guru. If a man in the form of a Guru awakens spiritual consciousness in you, then know for certain that it is God the Absolute who has assumed that human form for your sake. The Guru is like a companion who leads you by the hand. So, yes, Satchidananda is Guru, Atman is the real Guru, but mind is not Atman. So, how mind becomes Guru? To understand that, we have to look at another of his statements, which also he has made at several places we find in the Gospel. And what is that? That is, pure mind and Atma are the same. He says, God cannot be known by the sense organs or by this mind, but he can be known by the pure mind, the mind that is free from worldly desires. The pure mind is the same as the pure Atman. So, if we now make two equations, one is Satchidananda or Atman is Guru and pure mind is Atman. So, pure mind then is also Guru by simple equation. If Atman is Guru and pure mind also is Atman, then pure mind becomes our Guru. How the mind becomes pure? This is the question. We find that in Sri Ramakrishna in his Divine Play, the autobiography of Sri Ramakrishna. There we find that Swami Saradanandaji writes, a spiritual aspirant becomes pure by controlling the mind completely through constant practice of detachment and self-control. The master used to say that one's very mind then becomes one's guru. Whatever thought waves arise in a pure mind lead the aspirant quickly to the goal rather than leading him or her astray. So, with these two practices, detachment and self-control, we find that Patanjali too, in his Yoga Sutras, says that mind can become completely pure, that is, the mind can become full of sattva by practice of two disciplines. He says in the first chapter of Patanjali Yoga Sutras, Abhyasa Vairagyabhyam Tat Nirodhaha, that is, try to calm or still the disturbances of mind, thought waves of mind with the help of Abhyasa and Vairagya. Abhyasa means regular practice, trying to keep on practicing to fix the mind on our chosen object. And Vairagya means cultivating, practicing detachment from the world. Abhyasa and Vairagya. This can be understood better by an analogy that suppose we are trying to see our own reflection on a mirror. If the mirror is dirty and uneven, then we cannot see a clear picture of ourselves. So through abhyasa and vairagya, we can make the mirror cleaner. The more clean the mirror becomes, the truer reflection we can see of ourselves in the mirror. In the same way, through the practice of spiritual discipline and practicing some amount of detachment in our day-to-day life, our mind also becomes pure. And such a pure mind becomes very sattvic mind. Such a sattvic mind becomes very transparent mind, and such a transparent mind reflects or transmits the light of Atman or light of Satchidananda, which is within all of us quite unobstructively. Then mind itself becomes as it were Atman. Mind becomes so transparent that mind itself becomes as good as Atman and reveals the light of Atman in a more transparent way. So these two are the practices, abhyasa, which we may think of doing our spiritual disciplines, spiritual practices daily without fail, and vairagya, practicing detachment, that is, knowing the limits of sense objects, knowing the limits of fleeting nature of the happiness that we derive from this world. They are only that much. They are hollow. They cannot give us ultimate satisfaction, ultimate joy. Practicing this daily, especially at the time of meditation, before meditation, if we practice this, try to um, try to think deeply about the hollow nature of the worldly pleasures and fleeting nature of their happiness. Inherently, they are uh, unsatisfactory. That is vairagya or detachment. With these two practices, mind becomes pure and pure with time. It is not an either or state. That is, the transformations happens gradually, very slowly, imperceptibly. The transformation happens, and our mind becomes purer and purer with daily practice, which we may not perceive in shorter duration, but over the time we find that if we keep on practicing our spiritual disciplines, then our mind becomes purer and purer, and our mind becomes our true friend, because ultimately Guru is true spiritual friend or guide. When our mind has become pure with practice, spiritual discipline, and detachment, then mind becomes our guide. Mind becomes our true friend. And such a friend not only encourages us for spiritual practices, but also shows us where we are going wrong. In another, from another point of view, we can say we can then objectify our mind, and we can understand the underlying motives behind mind's several deceptions. For example, one common trick mind plays daily, that when it is time for meditation, mind tries to give us an impression there are other works which are much more important. This is a trick mind plays. But with a pure mind, we can understand that we can objectify our mind, and we can understand the trick that mind is trying to play on us. And with a pure mind, which has become friend to us, that kind of pure mind encourages us for our spiritual practices, and also deter us, prevent us from going toward wrong direction. Such a mind becomes our true friend, true guide, and such a mind becomes our guru. And there are two hallmarks. There are two hallmarks of this pure mind. That is, one is this mind becomes then friendly to us, and we treat ourselves compassionately. That is, we don't become too critical about our spiritual development. At the same time, the second hallmark of this friendly mind, the true guide, the mind that has become guru, the second hallmark of this mind is it also does not let us become complacent to our spiritual practices. So, in one hand, it encourages us for spiritual practices and does not um, let us down with being too critical to ourselves, and on the other hand, it also deters us or prevents us from being complacent in our spiritual practices. And then such a mind becomes our friend, guide, and guru. And when we have such a mind, which is our true friend, we have achieved something which in Vaishnava tradition calls Atma Kripa, one's own grace. And when we have got that, we may be sure that we are on the right track, and we shall surely reach our goal. So that is how our mind becomes pure with practice and detachment, and such a pure mind becomes our own guru. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om.
Alok Parnam will now sing a song.
चैतन्यं शाश्वतं शान्तं व्योमातीतं निरञ्जनं नादबिन्दु कलातीतं तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। मोहिला गुरु चरणन की मोहे लागी लगन गुरु चरणन की मोहे लागी लगन गुरु चरणन की चरण बिना कछु भावे नहीं चरण बिना कछु भावे नहीं जग माया सब सपनन की लागी लगन गुरु चरणन की मोहे लागी लगन गुरु चरणन की भव सागर सब सुख गयो है भव सागर सब सुख गयो है फिकर नहीं मोहे तरनन की फिकर नहीं मोहे तरनन की जग माया सब सपनन की मोहे लागी लगन गुरु चरणन की मेरा के प्रभु गिरधर नागर मेरा के प्रभु गिरधर नागर आस गही गुरु शरणन की आस गही गुरु शरणन की जग माया सब सपनन की मोहे लागी लगन गुरु चरणन की मोहे लागी लगन गुरु चरणन की चरण बिना कछु भावे नहीं चरण बिना कछु भावे नहीं जग माया सब सपनन की मोहे लागी लगन गुरु चरणन की मोहे लागी लगन मोहे लागी लगन मोहे लागी लगन गुरु चरणन की
Our final speaker is Swami Prasannatmananda, who will speak on the topic of Avatara, reincarnation as Guru. Swami Prasannatmananda is the minister in charge of the Vedanta Society, Berkeley. He received his monastic ordination in 1995 after spiritual and scriptural training. His decades of ministerial service include spiritual practice and worship, personal counseling, congregational prayer, scriptural and philosophical studies, and research. He offers classes and formal lectures on a variety of topics, some of which have been at UC Berkeley and Stanford. He has also written several philosophical and religious articles such as Swami Vivekananda's views on Buddhist monasticism, role of spirituality in health, and the great women in Hindu scriptures and Holy Mother. Swamiji also conducts formal worship and Vedanta classes every Sunday evening at the San Jose House.
You have heard 5 excellent spiritual lectures. 5 respected Swamis explained the significance of Guru from different angles. I am going to share views on Avatara, prophet, as a Guru. Avatara or prophet is world teacher. Among all types of human relationships, the relation between guru, the preceptor, spiritual teacher, and disciple is most highest and most profound, deep, and sacred. We can find it in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. If we see the relation between Sri Ramakrishna and his disciples, it is not very easy to understand this relationship for ordinary common people properly. You have heard that Guru helps disciples in many ways. Guru bestows his disciples true knowledge. Guru instructs disciples the true path which the disciples has to be followed. Guru corrects disciples when they go wrong. Guru guides disciples as they advance in spiritual life. Guru awakens the spiritual consciousness within disciples. In ordinary secular study, we can receive knowledge from books, from teachers, from lectures. And we can understand it from our ordinary level of intellect in ordinary mind. But spiritual knowledge, to receive and understand spiritual knowledge, we need awakened mind. Mind has to be awakened to understand the deeper meaning of spirituality, because it is subjective knowledge. Ordinary knowledge, what we can get from book or teacher, it is the objective knowledge. For spirituality, the subjective knowledge, we have to awaken our mind. And Guru awakens this mind, which is called Dhi, our higher intellect. We can understand this spirituality by higher intellect, which is called Dhi. This Dhi has to be opened, awakened. And Guru awakens this higher intellect, which is called Dhi. And Avatara, prophet, as a Guru, expedites this process of awakening. Swami Vivekananda says in his book Bhakti Yoga the same thing. He says, I quote, "In the vast majority of cases, such help from Guru is absolutely necessary. It comes, the higher powers and possibilities of the soul are quickened, spiritual life awakened, growth is animated, and man becomes holy and perfect in the end. This quickening impulse cannot be derived from books." Unquote. Now, the question is, how does prophet or avatars performs his task? The spiritual impulses imparted by human teacher or human guru can influence only a handful of people. Human guru can influence very small number of disciples, but avatara as a guru can influence millions of peoples. The impulses, spiritual impulses, avatara generates that can influence millions of people. Prophet identifies himself with God. Prophet identifies his or her will and ego with the cosmic will and the cosmic ego. In this process, prophet becomes a channel of these divine impulses. So, the grace, blessings, this divinity or these divine impulses comes through avatara, and avatara performs as a role of a channel. In case of secular knowledge, the impetus for removal of knowledge or ignorance comes from external teacher, but impetus for removal of ignorance or awakening of the self comes from within. Identifying with God, this avatara, as a indwelling controller, sits within as an antaryami. Swami Vivekananda called it antaryami. So as a indwelling controller, avatara sits within, and from within awakens this higher intellect. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, Teshamevanukampartham aham agyanajam tamaha nashayami atmabhavastha jnana deepena bhaswata. Seated in the hearts of my devotees, I destroy the darkness of ignorance by the light of knowledge out of compassion for them. Swami Vivekananda also, in the hymn of evening arati, every day we sing for Sri Ramakrishna. He wrote, Jyotira Jyoti Ujala Hridikandara Tumi Tabo Bhanjanahar. As the light of all lights, you illumine the cave of the heart and destroy the darkness of ignorance. Avatara's role as a guru is not for a short time. It acts, the impacts of avatara as a guru is for the whole lifetime and after life also. Besides awakening the soul of the seekers, avatara guides, and he gives strength and courage to face the challenges of the world. Avatara becomes the eternal guide of spiritual seekers. In Mahabharata, avatara as a guru is called Deshika. 3 letters, De-shi-ka. De means Devata Rupo Dharitva, assuming the form of God. Shishya Anugraha Karanat, for showering the grace on the disciple. Karunamaya Murtitvat, assuming the compassionate form, Deshika Katita Priya. So, Guru, Avatara as a Guru, assumes the form of compassionate God. Why? To grace, to shower the blessings on the disciples. So that is why he is called Deshika. Swami Avedananda, one of the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, composed a hymn called Ramakrishna Lila Stotram. There he wrote, Sangshararnava ghore iha karnadhara sarupakaha namastu Ramakrishnaya tasmai Sri Gurave namaha. Salutation to Sri Ramakrishna, the Guru. We know Sri Ramakrishna is the prophet. Salutation to Sri Ramakrishna, the Guru, who serves as the helmsman of my life's boat, steering it across the ocean of transmigratory existence. So, God descends as an avatara to ascend the spiritual seekers, disciples. Thank you.
As we come to the end of the retreat, now Swami Prasannatmananda will offer his closing remarks. We offer our namaskarams and thanks to all Swamis for their inspiring spiritual messages. I thank Swami Prasannatmananda for this opportunity to participate in this program. Namaste.
Now, in this connection, I express my thanks, gratitude, and well wishes to you all for watching this program. I convey my thanks to the artist devotees who contributed their time and energy to sing those beautiful songs. I convey my thanks and gratitude and best wishes to our tech team for technically set up the whole program. I thank you, the MC of the event. Last but not least, I offer my sincere pranams and namaskar to all the respected Swamis for kindly sending their video lectures to make this online event retreat a success. Thank you all. Here is an announcement. On Sunday, July 19 at 5:30 p.m., Sunday, July 19, at 5:30 p.m., we will have the Living in Spirit lecture. You know, for these unprecedented circumstances, we had to cancel few events. But on July 19th, Sunday at 5:30 p.m., we will have Living in Spirit lecture. Our speaker is revered Heng Shur. I think most of you are known to know who is revered Heng Shur. He will speak on Buddhistic perspective in this changing scenario of new normal. We have other very interesting events in the pipeline. Please touch base with us and participate in these events. Thank you. Thank you once again to you all. Now, the closing song Ramakrishna Sharanam. I hope you all will join from your home to this Ramakrishna Sharanam. Namaste. Take care to stay safe. Thank you.
Sumita ji and the chorus group will sing Ramakrishna Sharanam. We hope you'll join in the singing.